Hey guys, I'm Jessie, and today I have another spoiler-free book review for you. Today we are going to be talking about Winds of Strife by UG Gutman. This is a self-published dark fantasy, and it is dark. It is definitely a grimdark book. Not necessarily in the super bloody, gory way, but the themes of this book are pretty intense. And I don't think this book is going to be for everybody. Honestly, for a little while there, I thought this book wasn't going to be for me. And I was really sad about it because I really wanted to love it. And then the more I got into it, the more I was really enjoying it. And I think it took me about to the 20-30% mark to really be like, okay, I'm really enjoying myself in this. So I wanted to talk about it. I want to talk about my pros and my cons and who I think should read this and who I think should maybe stay away from this book. But just know that I did enjoy it. So in Winds of Strife, we are following a couple main characters, but our main guy is Nye. He is a witch hunter. And basically in this world, being a witch is outlawed. So basically female magic users. Men can use magic, females cannot. And that is because the king in this world believes that there is this big bad witch who is extending the night. So it is getting dark earlier and staying dark later, and this just keeps continuing on. And it's fractional in the grand scheme of things, but over time, daytime hours are super limited, and at some point soon, everything is going to be nighttime, and we don't want that. So we think that if he kills all the witches and finds this one who is using her magic to extend the night, that, he'll be this grand hero and he will bring back the day. So Nye is actually fighting in this kind of king's army of witch hunters. So he has to go around and kill witches, basically. Anyone that is accused of being a witch, he goes into their house and he kills them and their families. And it's pretty horrific. But we come to find out that Nye is kind of infiltrating these witch hunters. He is working from the inside to bring them down. So while, yes, he is out there killing people for no reason, really, he is also saving the ones he can. So he will go and instead of killing the whole family, he will make sure that he saves who he can. And a lot of these women will actually come to live at his home with him. And there's a couple of them that stayed, and he is basically training them to help him bring down this evil empire, right? Which sounds good and great. And then we find out that Nye, the reason that he kind of is the way he is because when he was a kid, his mother was a witch or accused of being a witch, and a witch hunter came into his house and killed his whole family, his girlfriend, and thought that they killed him, but he ended up surviving. And that is kind of where this story kind of starts off, but man, does it go so many. First, I want to start off talking about some of my pros, and then we will kind of get into some of the cons and possible trigger warnings of this book, because like I said, this is not going to be a book for everybody, because for one, it is pretty grim dark, and it is morally gray characters, and these morally gray characters lean more towards the not so good side of the spectrum than the anti-hero side of the spectrum, so keep that in mind. But for one, we're going to start out with pros, and the pros is, man, the magic system is so cool. I love the magic system in this book. Everything is based on your emotions, and different emotions give you different abilities if you can harness them. So for one, it's anger, and you harness your anger to create fire. And it's really cool. And most people have whatever one emotion that they are more attuned to, and most people can kind of do all of them or multiple of them, but they have one that's they're really, really good at, right? And I really like that. I like seeing the magic, and I just think that it's so well done. And at first it was a little confusing, but then it just all started to make sense, and I'm excited to like dig into this magic system just because it was so well done, so thought through. And I really enjoyed it. I think the author did a great job with this. I also really it's hard to say but I enjoyed, that's also a weird word to say with this once you know more, the dynamics. We'll just say I guess, friendship, family, whatever, dynamics. They're very dysfunctional, but it makes sense, if that makes sense. Like, it's a lot of, like, not found family, but it's, like, a dysfunctional found family. And not everybody likes each other, and they don't really get along, but they're working towards a common goal. And I really like seeing that, because in real life, you're not going to get along with everybody. And, like, even though Nye is actually the worst, they still work with him because they know they're working towards, like, a greater common goal in improving the world for women everywhere, basically. There's also like 2 female characters that I really, really liked, and one is Glitter and the other is Diane, and I thought both of them were super well done. They are both also pretty morally gray, but I loved them so much. Like, Glitter kind of uses her abilities to manipulate and control other people, and she's kind of a con artist, and she also wants to take down all of the witch hunters. And then we have Diane, who was saved by Nye, but absolutely despises him, but she also really cares about him. And she is just badass. Like, she's super, super powerful when she wants to be and when she can control what she does. And I really liked those 2 characters quite a bit. I also really enjoyed, and this is gonna sound really weird, the epilogue. There was an epilogue in this book that I was like not expecting, because it takes place not just after the book itself, but after what seems like a very long period of time. And it actually had me very curious to see what will happen next in this series, because the end of the book ends like it could be a standalone. But once you read that epilogue, you're like, well, what else happens to lead us here? So this epilogue takes place what seems like years and years and years after. And I'm very curious to see. And I really like how the author did that and just kind of like piqued your curiosity with that. I also just really love the trope of like bringing down the evil organization from the inside. Like, where you have to pretend that you're the bad guy, basically, to bring down the actual bad guys. And like, you have to do some pretty horrible, nasty things. But your overall goal is to bring down this evil organization from the inside, because that's really the only way to do it. Like, that is a trope that I just love. And when I found out that that was like what this book really contained, I was even more excited to get more into it. So I had a good time with that, and it's one of my favorite tropes, so I'm excited to see what happens next. Also, there is like no romance in this book, really. Like, maybe some, but like the romance is not like romantic, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but like there is no like shipping and romance and love. Like, it's just not. It's not this book. And I don't feel like romance should be shoehorned into places where it's not necessary or it doesn't make sense. And I feel like a lot of books do that just because it's like, oh, we need a romantic element. Like, let's throw this in. And there's no like, I'm trying to think of a way to say this without like being vulgar. So you know how in a lot of books, movies, I like to call it the power of the pussy. And that is like, there's always this one girl and she can save the villain or anti-hero with the power of her love. Like, the power of her love will make him better and make him a good person. And no matter how bad he is, this one girl can change him. Like, that's not. That could have easily gone this route in this book, looking back, and it wasn't. And I appreciate that, because that is something that I'm like, ugh, that's just annoying. So that wasn't there. And these are all my pros, right? So those were my pros, my why I think you should read this book. And now we're going to jump into like some possible content warnings as well as like some of my cons. And my cons kind of fall with the content warnings. You'll see them here in a minute. So starting out, Nye hears voices, and which overall, not bad. The voice in his head he called the madness, and it is murderous and terrible. And it tells him to do these horrible, terrible things, and he kind of gives into it. And he's got this like just struggle with violence, and he is a very not kind person. He's a violent person, and he abuses and beats his friends. Let's just put it that way. He is not a good guy. So Diane, the one character I told you I did really, really like, yeah, he's abusive. He's an abusive dick. And I feel like this is a big content warning for if you have been through things like domestic abuse, you might want to stay away from this book, because while it is definitely not cast in a positive light, and it is, I guess, makes sense with the story and with Nye and who he is, you're not supposed to like him. He's not supposed to be a good guy. He is abusive to his friends, not only Diane, but there is this princess that he is supposed to be controlling as well as marrying, because it's like he's betrothed from the king's daughter and he's supposed to control her because she's like super powerful, and they use love to keep people under control. And also he's a jerk to her. And I just really think that he is not a good person. And if you are the type of person that has been through domestic abuse, then this is probably not the book for you. Even though it is definitely not portrayed in a positive light, it is there. And that is, you know, a theme throughout the entire book. And it's something that Nye struggles with and gives into. And yeah, he never becomes a better person. I will definitely say that. He never becomes a better person. He never like gets over his trauma, and there's a lot of trauma. It is, I said at the beginning, it's not like a super gory book, and it's not, but it is violent. So also keep that in mind. The other kind of con was kind of along those same lines as love as a weakness. Like using someone's love for you or your love for them as a way to control and manipulate them. That is something pretty problematic, but it is shown in the book as problematic. It is actually brought up and talked about how that is problematic. And we do get a pretty good discussion between two characters about this at some point, but it's never really resolved. But honestly, these cons are more, if these are content warnings for you, then probably don't pick up this book. But it was something that I was able to, you know, get through. It didn't like trigger me or anything like that. The other thing I will say is it was kind of slow in parts. Like there were parts where I was like, okay, what's going on? This is kind of slow, whatever. But then when it picked up, it picked up. And I was like finally hooked when it finally picked up in my mind. When the action really started happening, especially the end of it, you just get it like this. And I was very, very pleased with that. But there were parts where I was like, okay, what's going on? So keep that in mind if you were deciding to pick up Winds of Strife. Because while it is not a perfect book, I absolutely enjoyed it. It does have some very brutal content in it as far as domestic abuse and mental health with Nye, you know, hearing voices. And it's just not, it's not a happy book. We'll tell you that. Like if you're looking for something that's like a happy book, then this is probably not for you. But if you like grimdark fantasy with morally gray characters, then pick this one up because it's really good. It's also available on Kindle Unlimited. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, I recommend picking it up there and trying it out. And then you can get this really cool, well done paperback edition. Like it is nice. It feels nice. Like it's got a nice matte cover that I like, and the cover's really pretty as well. So yeah, I'm excited for book 2. Basically because of the epilogue, because I was like, now I need to know what happens next. But yeah, if you want to pick up this book, definitely recommend doing so. If you can, you know, if you just know what you're going into, know the content warnings, know that, you know, no one in this book is good. It's not a happy time, but it is a very interesting time, and I enjoyed my time reading it. All right, well, thank you guys for hanging out with me. My name is Jessie, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.